Hi everyone, welcome back to this channel. My name is Hannah, and here on Pages and Pearls I talk all about my knitting projects and hopefully in the future also about books and creative writing. If you're new here, I am happy that you found your way to this tiny corner of the internet, and if you're a returning viewer after this one podcast episode that I have done so far, welcome back. I wanted to give a big thanks to Chelsea from Truly Knits, who recommended my channel in her last podcast, and I believe quite a few of you found your way here because of that. So thank you to Chelsea for shouting me out, and thank you to everyone who clicked the link and found this channel. Along with this, I also recommend you, if you haven't seen Chelsea's video on Truly Knits, give them a look, because they were a major inspiration for me to start this podcast, because her videos are just, I don't know, perfect to unwind to at the end of the day with a hot cup of tea or coffee, or you're knitting or whatever it is that relaxes you. And I just really like how she talks about knitting and the projects she works on and the yarn choice and color choices she makes. So just give her a look and you'll see. Today I have an episode with a few finished objects for you and also some new acquisitions. But before we settle into that, I hope you're made yourself a nice beverage. I made myself some black tea with oat milk. The tea I got for Christmas from a friend. It's a Christmas tea with, I think, marzipan and cinnamon and all sorts of herbs, so it's really nice. I'm almost at the end of it, which is sad because it's a really good tea, but also I'm waiting for spring, so it's nice maybe to empty out all the wintry Christmassy teas that I have and get ready for more floral spring flavors. Anyways, this is not a channel about tea, so we're gonna get into the knitting. First, I actually bound off a lot of projects this weekend because I injured myself on Friday while climbing. A few weeks ago, my partner and I have started climbing in the local gym here, and it's a lot of fun. I really enjoy it. It's tough for the arms. Pairing knitting with climbing at the beginning wasn't the best idea because my arms would be really tired. But anyways, all this to say, I injured myself on Friday. I fell in a little stupid way and I twisted my ankle, so this weekend I was most of the time on the couch putting ice on my ankle and trying to recover. It's gotten much better already. I can walk again, so nothing to worry about. But that meant I had a lot of time to finish up projects, and let's get into the finished project. So the first thing is what I'm wearing. It's this vest, the marshmallow vest by Spectacle Strick, and I knit this in Morocco Mochi, which is a acrylic, alpaca and wool blend, I believe, with these little tweedy bits, as you can see. It's not the recommended yarn. It's not even the yarn that gives you the right gauge for it, but still it somehow worked out, but I will get to that in a minute. The original vest I think comes with a color combination of 4 different stripes, and you then have the collar and the armholes and the hem in different colors as well. But I wanted to go for something a little less colorful, still colorful, but a little less colorful. So I opted for one main color for the body and then a contrast color for the ribbing. Originally I had planned to use a sort of green color for the collar and the hem, but when I saw the contrast, I didn't like it as much as with the yellow, so then I just did everything in yellow. This knit was a bit of a tough one. Not so much because of the instruction. The instructions is mostly clear. I think it takes you a bit, not enough by the hand as I would like to, but overall the instructions are fine. I think a big part of it was me and my learning curve with knitting. So I basically knit up the body, and then before deciding how long or short or cropped to make the vest, I put in the little ribbing at the armholes and the color. The color that I first put in was with the green yarn that I'd originally planned. But when I did this, first of all, I picked up too many stitches. I've never like picked up stitches for a color before, so I was also like just going along until I realized that it should have been less. Which meant it was like really floppy and not very nice. So as soon as I saw it, I was like, okay, I guess I just have to rip it back out because I am not gonna walk around with this sort of like really roughly color. And also I didn't like the color. So color and Jesus, how do you say this differently? I didn't like the color tone, the green one. So I needed to change it up. So I ripped it out, tried out the yellow for the armholes because I knew I wanted to have it there anyways, liked the look, put back in the color here. I bound off a little bit too tightly. I can get it over my head, but it's not super pleasant, so it's not like a thing that you can just put on and off because I have to like see a bit how to get it over my head. So that's another lesson learned. And then the trickiest part came when it came to the ribbing. I probably cannot see when I look down here. I will put in some footage of the full knit, like B-roll footage afterwards if I remember. So yeah, I tried it on while knitting it. I wanted a bit of a cropped look because I wear high-waisted jeans or skirts quite often. I bound off. The bind off was fine, but after blocking, the vest was like riding up quite a bit. So I didn't because like the look of it sort of just shrinking upwards the whole time. So I thought, okay, I would have to make it longer for sure. So I went back in, prolonged the body a bit, added the ribbing, and realized that I bound off too tightly with the ribbing so that I couldn't even put it on anymore. So I went back in and redid the ribbing and bound off more loosely. So redoing the ribbing twice and the collar once just made me very eager to get done with this. I like the look of it now, so it was all worth it in the end. I'm happy I went back in to improve it and adapt it to my liking, because in the end, I think also Chelsea said this in her latest video, in the end we all like knitting anyway, so what's the extra bit of work, right? It's just really frustrating if you think you're done with something and then you realize like, I have to go back in again. But I can say now that I'm quite comfortable with ripping out and going back in to fix live stitches if they're in ribbing or stockinette. So that's, I guess, a good lesson learned. And yeah, so now I like the look of it. I really like the tweedy bits in the fabric. It's very soft, quite warm actually, even though it's so like airy. I'm sitting here. The only reason I didn't open the window is because there's lots of street noise, but I'm quite warm right now. And yeah, I like it. It's a bit see-through, obviously, because my gauge was a bit off. I think the recommended needle size for this yarn is 5.5 millimeters, which is a US 9, I believe. But the pattern calls for it doesn't have a US size, for 7 millimeters. And when I made my gauge swatch, I actually got gauge. I thought about maybe going down a needle size or holding the yarn double, but in the end I just decided to knit as it was because it looked fine to me. And also the finished fabric, actually, I like it. So it's a bit airy. If I would wear something dark with stripes underneath, I think you could maybe see a hint of it through it. But because the color is sort of variegated and it has these tweedy bits, it distracts enough anyway. So yeah, all this to say I like it. Just a little bit more about the gauge. So I think I was off by 1 or 2 stitches, and because I was between 2 sizes anyways, I knitted 1 size up just to make sure that the garment wouldn't be too small in the end. I usually knit a size M in most patterns that I've knit so far. I have a bust size of 95 centimeters, so that usually puts me right between S and an M or M and an L, depending on the pattern. And this one I knit in an L because I thought anyways I want to wear shirts underneath, so it's nice to have it not too tight or like a bit more positive ease. So yeah, that's the Marshmallow blouse by Spectacle Strick. I believe the only thing that I didn't say is that the colorways are Barocco Mochi Plum for the main color and Daylily is the yellow contrast color. But I'll also put all the information in the description bar below. Then, next thing was very exciting because I knit my first pair of socks. In the last video, I think I already had this yarn acquisition of this hand-dyed yarn. It's Pleasant Hellhounds Lady of Shalott sock yarn, and I wanted to knit my first pair of socks, and I followed the vanilla sock pattern by the Crazy Sock Lady. And once I was done with the ribbing, I'll show you the socks in a moment. Once I was done in the ribbing, I realized I actually wanted a contrast color, so I went back to the yarn shop to buy another skein of a different color to make these socks. And these are the socks. I really like them. So this is the hand-dyed yarn, as you can see, and then I bought the Cascade Heritage yarn that is their sock base in, I think, 75% superwash merino and 25% nylon in the colorway marine, I think it is. So yeah, I wanted some, I was really craving pops of color and like a really vibrant blue. So that's the vibrant blue that I got. And yeah, I just did the ribbing at the top, 1x1 ribbing, and then followed the sock tutorial, and then switched back to the contrast color again at the toe. I'm really happy with how they turned out. I blocked them already and tried them on this morning. They're very soft, very comfy. The only reason I'm not wearing them right now is because I wanted to show them on camera. Probably I'll wear them tomorrow. I could actually wear them now, but I don't feel like changing my socks because my ankle hurts a bit. But yeah, those are the socks. I can see myself going on a bit of a sock journey because it was really enjoyable to knit them. Once I had figured out how to operate the tiny 9-inch circular needles that I had gotten, it was a lot of fun. It's, I don't know, you can just toss it in your bag when you're out and about. There are some things to change up, of course, like when you do the slip stitch heel and so on, but the steps are fairly easy to memorize, so I didn't have to check a pattern very often, and I just like how versatile socks can be, at least from what I've seen in other people's videos. So I'm really eager to knit more socks now. Yeah, this was a lot of fun. There was not so much ripping back or like changing of things involved. I think it's because on the one hand I read the pattern a bit better, so that's always my fault, of course, if I don't read properly. And on the other hand, it's just, yeah, I don't know, it just worked, which was really cool. So yay for the socks. And I don't know if there's anything else to say, except yeah, check out the, if you've been wanting to knit socks, check out that tutorial. I believe there's also a video, actually no, not I believe, I watched the video. So there's a video about this tutorial also where the Crazy Sock Lady who wrote the pattern goes through each steps to make these socks. So it's super instructive, super nice to watch, so you really know what you have to do. And then yeah, once you have that down, I believe you can just go wild with your color combinations or different ribbing options, carrying down different pattern along the sock. So I think I'm gonna have a lot of fun with that. And I still have a lot of yarn actually, so I have around 50 grams of the blue of the Cascade yarn left, and I believe more than 80 grams even of the hand-dyed yarn that I got. So I know that definitely the next sock that I want to knit will be mainly with this yarn, but I think I want to have some contrast at the leg again. So I'm not sure if I'll just flip the colors and start with this one, or maybe I'm thinking about some nice yellow or orange that, like a warm yellow or orange that sort of picks up, whereas like, yeah, here, for example, you have a really nice, this like warm burnt orange edge that I really like, and I could imagine that having the cuff and something like this, also maybe here you can see it a bit as well. Yeah, that having the cuff in that could work well as well. So let's see how my next socks will turn out. Maybe I'll have them in the next video, or at least they'll be a work in progress in the next video. Yeah, also this was so much fun that I didn't even get into the danger of second sock syndrome, because I just wanted to wear them as soon as I was done with the first, and I knew that the only way to wearing them was to cast on the second sock immediately, and that's what I did. Yeah, so these are the vanilla socks by the Crazy Sock Lady. Success. And then next I knit the fourth hat by Isolde Teague, I think her name is. So hats are probably the knits that I have most experience with, which is not a lot, but I have knit my fair share of hats, especially before Christmas. So I gifted a hat voucher to a friend of mine for her birthday, telling her she could pick the yarn and the style of the hat, and I would, yeah, just do it to her liking. And last time I believe I already showed you the acquisition for that one, and because I wanted to make things interesting for myself and try out something new, I knit my first ever top-down hat. So this is the fourth hat by Isolde Teague. I hope I pronounced that last name right. In Barocco Mercado colorway Ciruela. It's a really, really nice, like, not quite maroon, it's more purple than maroon, I would say. But yeah, the color is just really nice. I hope you can see it here. I think my friend made an excellent choice that I wouldn't have made for myself, but it was so much fun to knit this color up, and the yarn as well. It's 100% Peruvian Highland wool. It's very soft. It's for needle size US 5.5 millimeters, 6 millimeters, so US 9 and 10. And the pattern, yeah, as I said, is top down, which I found really cool and really enjoyable, because you basically start with center out cast on, which is a new thing that I learned now, and you start going round and rounds and doing your increases, and then if you have a certain amount of your hat ready, like let's say maybe this much, if you can measure an inch, that's when you determine your gauge. So basically this pattern is more like a recipe, I would say, because it works for so many different gauges and sizes. And yeah, you just get started, then you measure, and then you can see in the rest of the pattern, depending on your size, how many more times you have to increase, and so on. So that was a lot of fun. It was really cool. The cool thing is also that because I only had 100 grams of this yarn and they didn't have any more skeins in the shop, and because my friend wanted a bit of a slouchy hat, I didn't know if I was going to have enough yarn for like a wide brim. So the nice thing about starting at the top was also that I could basically just go down, and then I knew that I could knit until, I don't know, just a little bit of yarn left so I could still bind off, right? So I knit and knit and knit, and then I switched to the ribbing at some point, which I think I went down 2 needle sizes for this to make it a bit tighter. And then I just kept seeing my friend and had her try it on so that the brim was wide enough and the hat still a bit slouchy to her liking. I'm gonna try it on now. It's still a little bit wet inside because I just blocked it. Or, well, I blocked it yesterday, but it's the hat. You can see it has a bit of slouch here at the back. I have to say her head is also a bit bigger, and she has more hair than me, so for me it might look a bit looser than it does for her. But yeah, it's nice. It's not too tight. It's very soft, very warm around the ears because of the folded brim, and I really like it. I did learn a new binder for this, which I then also used on this vest, which is Jenny's surprisingly stretchy cast off, I think it's called, which is fairly, yeah, nice and easy to use for ribbing as well. And I think it gives you like a nice decorative edge. I'll try to show you here. And it's stretchy. And what else do you want, right? I also liked it because the other cast-offs that I saw were either with, yeah, needle, how do you call this? The other cast-offs here, like, were needle-related cast-offs, sewn cast-offs, that's how you call them. And I didn't feel like doing that. I prefer my cast-offs with my knitting needles, so because this cast-off you can just do with your needles, it's even better. And yeah, I would definitely knit this hat again. In fact, I will knit it again, but we'll get to that when I talk about my acquisitions. So yeah, the fourth hat, I would definitely recommend it, especially if you have all sorts of different gauges and yarn types and you just want to knit really nice hats with them. I know that the author of the pattern, so Isolde Teague, she also has some other top-down hats that are quite popular, among them the Musselburgh hat, which is, I think, which doesn't have the ribbing. I think there's really like a long tube that you knit. And there's another one that I don't know right now, but I think the one that has like ribbing all the way through. So yeah, you have these hat recipes for different styles. I would recommend checking them out because they're a lot of fun to knit and really cool. Yeah. Let's get to my works in progress, or my one work in progress. The reason that I only have one because I bound off these projects fairly recently. Yeah, just looking around to see where I put it. Oh, it's far away. Okay, let me get it. All right, so my current work in progress, the one that I started, is the Traveler's Cardigan by Rosetta. And it is, so I have to be a bit careful because we're using spun wool. It is, wait, I can't hold it up now because I am in the middle of a row. Let me just finish it quickly so that it's a bit easier. I have to be careful on winding it and finish the purl row. So, sorry, this is all like a lot of hassle, but it's actually, the knit itself is not so much hassle. Here we go. So the project that I'm currently working on is the Traveler's Cardigan by Rosetta. And the Traveler's Cardigan, the recommended yarn is this Wool Dreamers Manchego piece. And I found this yarn back when I was in Berlin, in my local, or one of the local yarn shops there, and I thought, why not try it with the recommended yarn. I was a bit afraid that it would be too fragile because the lady in the shop told me that I have to be really careful knitting it up because it's unspun, so it's much more fragile than spun yarn. And yeah, I was a bit intimidated by it, to be honest, because the cardigan requires short row shaping and some other techniques that I haven't done before that I think are definitely doable for me, but I was just a bit intimidated to try these with a fragile yarn where I couldn't, rip things out as easily or pull the yarn as tightly. So I delayed starting this project for a bit, but then I just, after I finished the projects I had on my needles, I really felt like making a cardigan in this yarn that is arguably quite warm, and I wanted to definitely get it knit up still before the weather turns into spring and before it gets too warm to wear this. So I cast it on, and I have to say it's actually less fragile than I thought it would be. So of course it gets more stable once you knit it into a garment, but also the knitting process itself I did quite a bit of short row shaping already here, so I have to unroll this like parchment basically. What I'm working on now is still the very beginning. This is basically just the short row shaping that you do at the back of the shoulders. And now I'm basically knitting down the back panel. But yeah, the short row shaping was not too bad, even with this sort of fragile yarn. It's very enjoyable to knit with. Of course, like I always have to unwind a little part before I then continue knitting, so that kind of slows me down a bit, but I'm not really in a hurry anyway, so I don't really mind to be slowed down. I'm knitting this on size 6 millimeters, so US 10 needles. Is that true? Yes, US 10. And then I believe the button band and all of this you knit with, yeah, you go down 2 needle sizes and you knit this along while making the rest of the cardigan. But I don't know this yet because I'm not at that stage yet. There is a lot of purling involved, obviously, because you go back and forth. And I know that for some reason many people don't like purling. I don't mind purling. I think it's because I knit English style anyways, and I find that with English style, the purling, at least for me, doesn't make such a big difference. So if I hold my yarn with the hand to the back and do the thingy, like the flick with my index finger, or hold it to the front and then do the flick, it doesn't make such a big difference for me. So that's fun. And yeah, I really wanted a cardigan. I have a lot of commercial, like store-bought sweaters, but I don't have a lot of cardigans because I never really found the cardigans that I like. So I'm excited to knit the type of cardigan that I want. And I love the color of this one as well. It really reminds me of, you know, like when you go to the beach and you find these like little pieces of sea glass. I think it's called sea glass. And it's this super like, I don't know, milky, hazy sort of green or other colors as well. That's what it reminds me of, and I really like that color. So it's super enjoyable to knit it. I don't have buttons for it yet. I did buy buttons when I went to one of my local yarn shops here a few weeks ago, but I think I want the buttons for a different project. So yeah, I don't have buttons yet. I have some in mind already at a shop here, but I still need to pick them up, and I want to pick them up before I get to the button band so that I know how big of a hole I need to knit for the opening to fit the button in properly, that it doesn't slide out or not fit. So yeah, that's the Traveler's Cardigan by Ozetta. I have to say the pattern so far, I'm really liking it. It definitely, yeah, there's nice like intermediate measures of how long the garment is at that point, or like how many, yeah, the kind of stitch count you should have at that point. I feel like it's more my style of pattern than the one for the marshmallow vest that I knit. So I'm really enjoying being like guided along a little bit more. And there's also links to helpful tutorials and sort of schemes to see like, okay, this is the part that we're knitting now comes this next part. Yeah, it's a lot of fun. I really like it. I would recommend it, and I'm already eyeing all of Ozetta's other patterns. I really like the port sweater and the, what's it called, the one with the saddle shoulder. Port sweater and I forgot now. But there's another sweater that I really want to knit. Lakes, it's the lake sweater, that's it. So the port sweater and the lake sweater both look really nice to me, and I believe I'll be knitting one of those in the near future, but let's see how my future plans change. But yeah, I really want to knit more of her patterns because they're really pretty, and now that I see also nicely explained. Yeah, so that's my only work in progress because I haven't cast on anything new yet, but I have things here that I could cast on. So let's get to them. First, I had a bit of impulse control issues. Actually not, I thought about this for 5 days or so, so it's not really impulse control issues. But Pearl Soho had a sale going on, and I've been wanting to try one of their yarns for a while now. So I bought something from Pearl Soho, which is the, wait, this, okay, the linen quill in butterscotch yellow. That's the color I picked out. It's 50% fine Highland wool, 35% alpaca, and 15% linen. And it comes in these 100-gram skeins, and it's 439 yards per 100-gram skein, so it's a fingering weight. So I wanted to buy this yarn. I had this yarn or another one in mind because I wanted to buy yarn for another cardigan. As I said, I don't own a lot of cardigans, but I do like wearing them over shirts, blouses, t-shirts, and also in summer over dresses. And I wanted, as I said, pops of color. So I wanted a really like yellow, orangey, warm colored type of cardigan. And I found the pattern that is, I think, the Cottage Cardigan by Jacqueline Cieslak. And one of the yarn alternatives that they suggest in the pattern is this linen quill. So I thought, okay, perfect opportunity. I have the pattern that I like. I have the yarn, or I didn't have the yarn at that point yet. Just had to decide for the color. And then, as I said, I wanted like a warm yellow, orangey color that would work well for summer, but I believe also really nicely for autumn when you just want to look like a giant pumpkin. I don't know if other people want to look like a pumpkin, but I don't know. Anyways, the color called to me. So I got some skeins of this. Now, because I don't own yarn like winder and Swift, I have to wind them up by hand, which was a fun experience because I did this for the first time. So this is what it looks like. I find it a bit, I don't know, it looks like a cartoony drawing of yarn compared to these like nicely wound cakes that I usually get when I buy my yarn at the yarn shop, because there they wind it up for me. But yeah, I wound it up. It was fun because, as I said, I was on the couch all weekend because of my twisted ankle, and I was getting really bored, and then I started winding this up, and it was a nice like short shoulder arm workout because you have to keep going quite a while. All of this to say, this is my attempt of winding up the yarn. I have to say I'm actually not planning to buy a Swift or a yarn winder or anything like that in the near future, at least, because we have very limited storage space here, and every decision that I make about new purchases is always very much determined by how much space is there and how much money do I really want to spend on it. And because we don't have a lot of space, and because I know that I can either do it by hand or get it done at the yarn shop when I buy the wool there, I don't really need it. Not to say that anyone else, yeah, everyone can do whatever they want, right? But like, I don't need it. I have to say it's also a nice way of keeping myself in check that I don't buy a lot of yarn online. I do have the amazing opportunity of having really, really nice local yarn shops, which I want to support. Plus, I also like seeing the colors in person as much as possible. And then just knowing that whenever I order skeins of yarn like this, that I will have to manually wind them, makes me think twice if I want to buy it. Which, I don't know. Some people like to make it difficult for themselves. No, for me, it's just like, yeah, a good extra step of the thought process. Anyways, all of this to say, I already knitted up a gauge swatch, which is this one. The pattern calls for quite a loose gauge, so I think the recommended gauge size is until 3.75 millimeter needle, so US 5, but the pattern calls for a US 6 needle, so 4 millimeter needle. But because of the alpaca and probably also because of the linen in it, I don't know, it's quite fuzzy, so it actually doesn't look too loose, I would say. I will hold it up here a bit closer so you can see it a bit better. I hope this focuses. And yeah, I like it because it's a fairly thin fabric, which I think is quite well to carry through the seasons, and because I want to make something that I can also wear in spring and summer, I think this is a good a good fabric for it. Now I also afterwards, the next purchase, I went to Brooklyn General. Brooklyn General is a yarn shop in Brooklyn, as the name suggests, that I have seen on Instagram, and I've looked through their online shop several times already, because for some reason you only hear like really nice things about it, and I wanted to check it out for myself. Comparatively, it's a local yarn shop because it's in the city, but Brooklyn is a little bit out of my way, so it took me some time to actually finally go there. But oh my god, I think it's good that it's not so close to me, because that would be really, really dangerous, because it was really nice. I filmed just a little bit, so maybe I can put in the footage here somewhere, but to show you what I got there. I was very overwhelmed there because there were so many nice yarns. I don't know if you have this as well, any of you, if you go to like local yarn shops, that you get really happy but really overwhelmed at the same time. For me, it's usually because there's so many options, but I know that I can only knit at a certain speed. I don't want to stress myself. I also know that I don't have a lot of storage, so I don't want to acquire so much yarn. And I also know that plans and opinions and whatever change, so I don't want to accumulate too much yarn, right? Like I just don't want to have like a huge stash. Again, everyone can do whatever they want. If you have a big stash, that's so totally cool, but I just don't want to have one, because I know that maybe if I have something lying in stash for a while, I just don't get as excited about it anymore. I've also realized that I cannot, or I don't want to, knit more than 2 projects at a time. There was some time while I was knitting this vest, the socks, and the hat for my friend, and I just didn't like having 3 projects at the same time on my needles. I think for me the optimal balance is 1 small project and 1 bigger like garment, and that's sort of what makes me feel most at ease and happy and at peace, right? So with all of these considerations, I think that's why I always get a bit overwhelmed when I go to yarn shops, because I know that whatever purchase I make, I want to make one that I would basically feel like casting on right at that moment, and that I don't want to get more than that. Anyways, so I found it overwhelming, but I had made a bit of a list before of garment options that I wanted to buy like yarn for. So I think I had the Luna top, I think it's called, one colorwork sweater, and the Cumulus blouse by Petite Knit as options. I just wanted to get one like sweater or like garment quantity for one of them and not for the other ones, but these were just my options, and then I wanted to like see what called to me, and something called to me. So I'm using this museum shop bag from the Whitney as one of my project bags, because this is a tangent, but we went to the Edward Hopper exhibition where I got this postcard, which is in comparison a bigger postcard, but still just a postcard. I only had my small handbag with me that it didn't fit into, so I had to buy some sort of bag to carry it around with me, and I bought this one, and then I thought I might as well still reuse it. Anyways, in Brooklyn General, I saw that they had Knitting for Olive, and I have been wanting to try the yarns from Knitting for Olive for a while, because everyone speaks so highly of it that I was just really curious. So I looked through all the colors and I picked out the soft, I think it's called Soft Dusty Dove Blue, the colorway, sorry, the colorway is Dusty Dove Blue, in the soft silk mohair, and also in the merino, like the single merino ply, because I wanted to knit the Cumulus blouse. I know that the Cumulus blouse is mainly recommended for holding 2 strands of mohair, but I wanted some fabric that was drapey but not as light and airy, but still a bit more substantial. And on Ravelry, I have seen that some people paired fingering weight merino with the mohair to make the same blouse. So these are the 2 yeah, types of yarn that I got for it. I love the color. It's this like, yeah, dusty gray blue shade that is kind of close actually to the stripes on the shirt that I'm wearing. I love it because it's sort of a neutral but a bit more interesting in my opinion. I love neutrals, but I also really love colors, so it's a nice in-between thing for me. And yeah, so in the end I basically got like enough of this to make the cumulus blouse, which is a project that I'll be casting on probably in April. And I'm really excited about trying, on the one hand, knitting for Olive, on the other hand, also trying out a mohair, because I've never knit with mohair before. I have a bit of sensitive skin, so I'm not entirely sure, or I wasn't entirely sure before if I would find it scratchy, so I didn't want to order any mohair online. But I'm happy that I found it there in the shop, and I've heard that the Knitting for Olive soft silk mohair is one of the softest ones out there, so I thought, okay, well, I can try with this one. It should be fine, right? So, well, I'll report back if it's fine. Otherwise, some relative or friend of mine will get a really, really nice blouse as a present. The other thing that I bought in Brooklyn General were buttons, because, as I said, I wanted buttons for the cardigan. I found super nice buttons, which are these wooden buttons by Favor Valley Woodworking from Oregon. And I don't know, I just fell in love with them when I saw them. They are, they had different varieties. They are also different trees, basically, that the buttons are made of. And I picked these maple ones. I remember that they also had, I think, apple tree and yew tree, and probably a few other ones. I just don't remember their names. But I love the idea of these wooden buttons. However, I like them more for this cardigan that I'm planning. I mean, the pattern for this is called the cottage cardigan. So yeah, nothing fits better than these buttons, right? It's just like, it screams, to me, it screams cottage core life. You bake your bread, you have your vegetable patch in your backyard, and I don't know, the squirrel comes to greet you in the morning. Obviously not, right? But like, that's the combination that I'm going for. So when I saw these buttons, I knew that probably I would take them for this cardigan and not for the one that I'm working on. But I have some buttons in mind that I want to buy for this other cardigan. All about buttons. Anyways, so this was my visit to Brooklyn General. The thing that I did there also was to take some notes of the other yarns that called to me, just to see if I could maybe, I don't know, if I would find, I know that I have like quite a long favorites list on Ravelry of projects that I might want to make in the future, and I wrote down some of the yarns and also some of the colorways that I liked, just to, yeah, just that in a quiet moment at home I could check if any of these patterns would match with any of these yarns, so that on my next visit I could maybe pick out those. Maybe I will pick up something else. I know that I will visit there for sure again in the future. I really enjoyed the visit there. It's a lovely shop, super, super nice offer that they have. And yeah, but I'm glad that it's not so close to me that I can just hop down there and then just, I don't know, spend all my money on yarn. Yeah, so that was that. And the last yarn acquisition that I got was in my local yarn shop here on the Upper West Side, which is Knitty City. Knitty City is also an amazing yarn shop. I was gushing so much about Brooklyn General, but I really love my local one as well. I feel like they have a good variety of also more affordable yarns. Really, really nice staff. I always enjoy going there, and just, yeah. It's a super, super nice place, and I'm glad that this is my local yarn shop, because I enjoy going there, and you can buy, I think there are more options that don't like absolutely break the bank compared to Brooklyn General. So what I picked out is, as I was saying, vibrant colors. I mean, the socks in this color, I wanted more like electric blues. I think I was a bit influenced for this by Kutuvakika, who recently came out with a beanie in a very vibrant blue. So I was looking for a nice blue hat to, yeah, as a sort of thinner, lighter, everyday hat that works well with my favorite scarf that I'm wearing at the moment. My favorite scarf, actually, I want to get it. My favorite scarf, I got it here, is this super big, like, blanket scarf that I got quite some years back at a Christmas market back home in Berlin. And it's like, it has two different sides. It's this mainly like orange or like orange, red, and cream colored pattern, but I love that it has these like really like blue undertones, blue thread throughout. And I wanted something that would pair well with that, because usually I think red is not my color, or I mean, there are shades of red that work, but red is not like by default my color, whereas blue is. And I like how the blue in here gives it this sort of like colder undertone, and I wanted to pair something with that, so I got this yarn, which matches really nicely together, I think. This is the Malabrigo Arroyo in Azul Profundo, 150 the colorway. So it's this really like nice, vibrant blue, a bit variegated, I would say. I knit up like super tiny swatch just to see how the colors change, if I can find it. Like this, looks like this. It's 100% superwash merino, and I am planning to make another fourth hat with it. Now, the one thing that I'm not entirely sure about, so this is the fourth hat that I talked about before, that I knit in Peruvian Highland wool, and this one was fine with the blocking, but because the hat is knit from the top down and that determines your gauge, I'm not entirely sure how that works with superwash yarns, which I know they grow a bit when you block them. So I knit up this sample to figure out how much it would grow, but I think I made it much too small. And also, if you skip this step and like knit the sample in the round and just carry over the yarn like I did here, what can happen is that this stretches out more. So this was not such a helpful thing to do for me. I'm not entirely sure what I'll do yet. I might just go one size down and try, see how it goes, or just, I also saw on Ravelry that some people had just knitted to the dimensions as suggested in the pattern, blocked it, and when it turned out too big, they threw it in the dryer, and the dryer shrunk it back down to the original size. So I might try that as well, although I'm not sure that I want to expose a hand knit item to the very, like, I don't know, uncontrollable dryers of the laundromats here in New York. Let's see what I'll do. I'll still have to figure this out. If you have any experience knitting superwash, like knitting hats with superwash wool, and how that turned out with you for blocking, please let me know in the comments below. That would be super helpful. Otherwise, wait till the next episode and you'll probably see what I did and what I decided. I believe this is all that I wanted to talk about in terms of, yeah, acquisitions, whips, and finished objects today. I would be super curious to know what you're working on right now, if you've been working on anything while you watched. I would also be curious about how you choose your projects and how you make new yarn acquisitions, if you're someone who has a big stash, likes a big stash, if any like specific thought process goes into it, or if you just go where the joy calls, basically. Yeah, it's just, I'm really interested in knowing how that works for everyone else. Maybe next week on this channel you'll find some bookish content. I have plans to make videos maybe once a month about the books that I'm reading, because for the longest person that I've been a person on the internet, it has always revolved around books. And I used to blog quite a bit about it. Now I post about them every now and then on Instagram, but I don't think that gives me enough space, or like the format that I like to review the books that I read. So I might do that on here every now and then, so watch out for that. And yeah, other than that, life updates. I'm making progress with my dissertation. I'm probably going to send the next draft of a chapter to my advisors today or tomorrow. So yeah, steadily moving along. It's sometimes hard to pick up the motivation for that, which is also a reason why I haven't been writing. I know I said that I would make writing vlogs on this channel. I'm not sure yet when they will come, mainly because at the moment I feel like all my writing energy and like basically all the energy that I can put towards cognitively demanding things is going into my dissertation, which is fine. I mean, that's my job, right? Like I have to graduate, I have to finish my thesis, so it's fine. But I really noticed that especially because over the past years in grad school, I haven't had a lot of free time. I'm a bit going like nearing the end of the bandwidth of things that I can do. So I feel like there's so much pushing involved in my day-to-day life in terms of sitting down, trying to like, I don't know, program my statistics and figure out how to describe this, make my figures. This all sounds very random probably to someone who's not in academia. I don't know, maybe in your undergrad or grad school, whatever you did that too. But yeah, there's just so many things involved that that I really have to like force myself to do and sort of put myself into the right mindset. And I feel like that a lot of resources get eaten up by that at the end of the day, which is why my creative writing has been on a bit of a back burner for the last half year or so, and it will continue probably to do so for 2 months. Yeah, it's a bit of a shame because I honestly feel most like myself when I get the time to write and when I have these, I don't know, stupid characters in my day-to-day life that I can write about. But I also know that there's no point of pushing myself beyond what I can do at the moment. So this is why I'm taking a break from writing. I have to say, since the last podcast episode, I did actually reread the draft that I was working on last. It's the second draft, so I was revising quite a lot, and I made it almost halfway with this revision before I took the break. And I really like coming back to it. So I'm thinking about my characters a lot whenever I walk around here because the book is set in New York, and they're always there at the back of my mind. So I'm just hoping that this time right now is more of a gathering the energy and letting the creative juice sort of accumulate a bit so that I can then get to it properly once I have the bandwidth for it again. But yeah, who knows? Maybe I will suddenly make the decision that I don't care and that I will write no matter what, and then you'll see some vlog about this here. But I just wanted to give you a bit of a background on what's going on in my life at the moment. One of the reasons that I'm knitting so much in comparison to what for me is much is because it's one of the only ways I can sort of relax, unwind at the moment, and it keeps my hands busy, it keeps my head occupied, and it has nothing to do with screens, it has nothing to do with neuroscience, so it's just a really nice timeout for me. Yes, I think that's all I want to talk about today. As I said, leave me a comment and tell me what you've been working on. If you're not subscribed yet to this channel, maybe consider subscribing so that you see whenever the next video pops up straight away. And I'm happy that that we spent this time together and that you gave me a chance to talk about my knitting. And then I hope to see you in my next podcast episode or next video again soon. Bye bye.